I work at Omidyar Network, as I mentioned. We're one of the funders in the space. We support a lot of organizations that do experimentation with software. Whoops. Why is it going forward? And so my most important job is to get money out the door. Unfortunately, that means I'm going to miss 90 minutes of today while I go to a meeting to get money out the door. But I want to ask a question. We get a lot of proposals that basically says, we want to do the Yelp for schools. We want to do the Yelp for public hospitals. We want to do all sorts of different platforms for how we can improve how citizens interact with the governance process. And this question, is Twitter civic software at scale, was inspired by a blog post by Tom Steinberg, the executive director of My Society, one of the groups that we fund. And he wrote this blog post to basically people who worked on the campaign of Barack Obama, which was, they did an amazing job with tech and with data analysis. And a lot of the programmers who were working on this campaign, after the campaign was over, they got these amazing job offers to go work at these big, well-paid companies. And Tom says, wait, you guys did such a good job with the campaign. Imagine if we could use your talent to develop nonpartisan tech that improves governance rather than just get someone elected. And he said one of the reasons that we need really talented programmers like you guys is because so many other applications such as Yelp and Foursquare and eBay, TripAdvisor have empowered their users. Our lives are a little bit better because we have access to TripAdvisor and we can find better hotels thanks to that. And we don't have an example like TripAdvisor where a civic application has really reached the scale that TripAdvisor has and has affected millions of different people. And then he had a little footnote on the blog post and said, well, some people consider Twitter as civic software that has improved governance, and that definitely is at scale. So is Twitter's civic software at scale? Is really two questions. Is it at scale, and then is it civic software? Is it at scale? I think you can see the growth over the past 5 years is incredible and really global. And if you break it down into the city level, it's surprising. Jakarta, Sao Paulo, Mexico City is one of the really big cities by Twitter users. Luis Moreno, the president of the Inter-American Development Bank, said that in Mexico City, for example, the mayor cannot afford to not pay attention to Twitter, because if you have enough citizens complaining to the mayor on Twitter, it's going to be a big scandal, a news story, and he has to pay attention to it. We shouldn't just look at Twitter through rose-colored glasses, however, because Twitter is also used to avoid alcohol checkpoints in Mexico City and a lot of other cities. It's used to spread rumors. We saw how it was used both positively and negatively during the Boston manhunt, boy hunt story. But Luis Moreno does have a really good point. He used the example of there's some housewife and her water's not working and she tweets the mayor and the mayor's going to respond to him, which sounds crazy. But actually, here you have someone saying, so he's stuck in traffic somewhere, and he says, with all the respect in the world, I come to you, Mr. Mayor Ebrard of Mexico City, and I would like to say in front of everyone here, go fuck your mom. Because is it really normal to be stuck on this highway for 45 minutes? And the mayor says, my mother already passed away, where are you stuck? And he was an incredible user of Twitter. He was especially really good with Twitter. He's no longer the mayor. But whenever there was an earthquake, within 2 seconds of an earthquake, he said, we have an earthquake, which everyone kind of realized. You don't need Twitter to tell you you have an earthquake. So there were a lot of jokes that came out of that. Twitter was also instrumental in Brazil, for example, in the Ficha Limpa movement, which passed a law that says that politicians who are convicted criminals can no longer run for office, which is a sensible law, but you had, because of inherent corruption in Brazil, it hadn't been a law until there was this big mobilization on Twitter, so that's important as well. So going back to My Society, this is one of their platforms. It's called Fix My Transport, and we get proposals for these types of platforms all the time saying, if people just had access to an app where they could report when their transport doesn't work, then the world would be better and the transport will work. Sometimes I wonder, there probably already are thousands of people complaining about their transport not working on Twitter. And I wonder how much we should try to compete with Twitter as a place where there is kind of the civic reporting happening, and how much value we can extract from Twitter. And so an example, again, in Mexico City, which is where I'm based, which is why these examples come from there's a group that looks at Twitter for a movie theater chain and says, we from how many people are tweeting about upcoming movies, we know how many cinemas you should dedicate to the upcoming movies. And I wonder if we can use that same type of intelligence to detect from Twitter for all sorts of challenges within governance rather than trying to compete with it. Thank you very much.